Good morning, everyone. We're gonna first do the online requisition, and then we will do LPOs and campus-based fund. So if you have any question at the end or right when we are doing the training, just ask me so uh, we can talk about all the issue that you have. So I'm not sure if everybody know how to log in into PeopleSoft, but if you don't, when you log into, let me snooze this, sorry. I'm gonna have a patch. Okay. So when you log into American River College website, you go under employee and under employee, it's PeopleSoft Financial. Then you will get to the page which has the login into PeopleSoft system. There you can log in into PeopleSoft Financial. And then you do log in with your password, login username and password, and purchasing to start the requisition. So when you start the requisition at update requisition, you have to choose the business unit. Most of the time is general fund. Sometimes we will have capital outlay fund or child development fund, but those are only for like childcare development fund. It's only for childcare center, and then the capital outlay it's mostly used by operation. So when you choose Gen Fund, you click on add, and then this step for requisition name, I first, when I was not on the campus, I didn't know like how important was this for people, because most of the time when people do requisition, they forget about to write down the number or to save the requisition. So this is the way that they find the requisition name. Or when I used to contact IT and ask about some requisition, they would ask me for requisition name. So this requisition name does not get printed on requisition. It's only for your information. So whatever you need to name it, whatever makes it easier for you if you're working on a project or if something for one of the rooms, and you can name the requisition so you can find it. You don't have to do step one because PeopleSoft will, when you log in, it will enter the requester ID number at the end. So you don't have to do that. So when you start the requisition, the first important things is when you name the requisition, then just go to the requisition default page. If you don't, if you stay on this page and start entering like the description or start doing anything on this page, if you, after you're done with this page, go to the default page will not override this page. So whatever you, for example, if you put the account number, sometimes that it will not uh, override the distribution page. So you have to manually enter it. The system will let you to save it, but when it comes to business office, I will see like the issue. It tells me that the account number is not there. So right after you name the requisition, please go to requisition default page. And always, all the requisitions need a backup. All the requisition except blanket purchase order. So whatever we do, you have to always have a backup. You have to always have an attachment. So the only one that we do not require attachment is a blanket purchase order, which we will talk about it later. So for us, the buyer is Susie. So you choose your buyer, and then the supplier. Uh, you click on the magnifying glass and you put the uh, short name of the supplier. And be careful with the Amazon. There are few Amazon. I seen like Amazon comes under Amazon Web Services or Amazon Dry Foods. So just be careful when you choose your vendor. Look at it, look at the name when it shows up on the side. After you pick the supplier name, you will choose the category. Um, the category, it's very helpful. For example, like if you're buying only supplies, you choose supplies. But if it's a software, please choose software. Don't choose fees. Every category has a set of rules in PeopleSoft. So by choosing the right category, it helps me and purchasing and accounting to know what you are purchasing. Because most of the IT stuff or in like most of the stuff that you buy online, if it doesn't say software, then we will think that there is a tax involved. So, but then if when you do software, because we don't have category for license, we don't have category for a lot of stuff. For example, we don't have category for meals, so we use category supply when the food that we are purchasing has a sales tax. Even if if it doesn't have a sales tax, you can choose the location with no tax. So the category is very, very important. And if you don't really know how to name the category, just put it in the comment so I can see what you're purchasing. Then I will choose the correct category. The unit of measure, you can choose most of the time is each. For blankets it's lot, but it doesn't really matter the unit of measure. We can update it in the BSO, or purchasing will update it. But most of the time, if it's for service agreement, sometimes people choose job or charge, which is okay. And sometimes they choose each or hour. So if the person is working hourly, they will choose that. The supplier location is always one. The address requisition number. Let's see. Did I clicked? Okay. So then the address sequence number, I always put one, because no matter what you put, if you if you click on the magnify glass, then it will give you the options. But this option changes when it goes to purchasing. They choose the location where the order is sent. And when it goes to accounting, they choose the location where the remit address is. So I always put one. So you don't spend any time on it, just put one. And then the location, as I mentioned, if you are buying supplies, it will be taxable, except for blankets. Every all the blankets shipped to others has to be ARC, no tax, because blankets we include the sales tax in the total. So if you have $1,000 on your blankets, it's mean a part of that $1,000 is for sales tax. So the ship to for all the blankets is ARC, no tax. And please choose ARC, no tax. I have seen people choosing ARC and then the location is for police that says, I'm not sure what it says, but it's like for police department. So we have a location, it says ARC, no tax. So for software, for blankets, for maintenance PO, for rentals, for licensing, all these are the address should be ARC, no tax, because none of these are taxable. And then please just make a note, never put the due date in this box for due date, never, because PeopleSoft will do that automatically. When we do due date, sometimes it causes problem for purchasing, and we had some vendors, they get confused when you send a PO and it has that due date, like right after they receive the PO, and they think that they cannot do the order because it's already past the due date. So never put the due date. PeopleSoft will pick the correct due date. And then the asset department, never put the asset department when you are purchasing supplies or anything that is not uh, equipment related. So, and that's when you're using 6490. That's when you have to put the asset department. If you're using anything else, anything from 4,000 account, 5,000 account, those we should not have asset department. I have seen this a lot, that a lot of people, when they enter requisition, they put the asset department when they are just buying supplies. So I used to just delete them, then I start highlighting it and sending it back, so they can everybody get used to it, to not enter anything in asset department as long as it's not 6490. If it's 6490 or 6491, then you have to put the asset department. And I have seen like people, like when they are entering the requisition, they are purchasing supplies, they have all these information entered, including the membership. The membership, it's only for 5,300. So you don't have to put any information here if you're using uh, supply account or any other account. This is only for 5,300. And this is for, we were asked when I was in purchasing from board members, we were asked to choose the type, the membership type, because they want to see what kind of membership each campus are purchasing. And then the asset department, it's for the auditor. So the asset department, it's for the auditors, and the membership type, it's for the board members. When we are getting audited, the, uh, the auditor needs to know where exactly is the, uh, the purchase that we did with the 6490. When you're entering the budget, it's 100%. Don't do anything else here. Before we used to, the PeopleSoft would allow us to put more than 2 distribution here, but it started causing problem. That's why they recommended to put only 1. If you have like, if you're doing one purchase and it's one-time deal, it's gonna be done, then you can do the distribution, do the split distribution on this distribution page. Here you can enter only the information when we have like 2 or more budget. This is in that case only. So when you're entering it, you will enter the information that is the same on all those budgets. For example, it's all the budgets are 4,500, you can put 4,500. If the funds is 11, you put 11. If its project is different, then leave the project blank. But then for the rest of the requisition, if you're using only one budget, you complete the whole budget string. The location, that's very important for asset. It's very important because we have to have exact location of the asset, where, like, which room is it. They like, if we miss that part, purchasing will not process the PO and they will ask. Probably you have seen it from Susie. She asked for the room number. So it's very important to put the room number. Most of the people on the campus, they use 01 admin. For years, when Susie was doing ARC requisition, I would see 01 admin. But if you put even if it's not, if you're not even buying asset, but it's very important to know the location. If the like receiving department will know when to send those order. So it's good to have the correct location, not 01 admin. So when you enter the distribution here with the location, you click OK and it automatically will be saved. If you don't click OK, whatever you enter on this page is not going to be saved. This is just a kind of information about all the accounts. The 4,000s are supplies and materials. 5,000s are other operating expenses and services. 6,000 is capital outlay. And if you want, this PDF can be emailed to you, or we can share it on ARC website. So anytime you purchase one item, this is not for the total of the PO, it's only one item. When you're purchasing one item that is less than $5,000, which is sales tax and any related shipping charges included, uh, that needs to you need to be charging the following accounts. What I mean by the sales tax, so if you're, let's say you're buying some computers software, something, some server or whatever that is like about for 4,200, 4,200, and there is a sales tax involved. And then at the end, you see like there is $1,000 shipping charge. So when you divide that shipping charge between, let's say you're buying 10, you're dividing that shipping charge by 10. And when you add the sales tax and the subtotal, everything, and you have 5,001 penny, that would be 64.90 for one item. Only one item, not the total. I will explain a little more when we get to 64.90. So 4,300 instructional material, it's when the students are using the materials as in, it's for class. They're not gonna take it home or anything. 4,500, it's for non-instructional. 4,303, it's for software. Same, it goes all with the other account, like 56. I just don't wanna give you a headache more than what this process is giving you. Now, let's say purchasing an item that is more than $5,000. So when you're purchasing an item before the sales tax and shipping and handling, it's not 5,000. But then after, when you include everything, it gets over 5,000, as I mentioned, 5,001 penny, then it's gonna be 64.90. And for 64.90, we have to have the asset department information and the exact location of the uh, 64.90 item. When we are purchasing, I always think about like the software that we are purchasing. It's more than 5,000. I think about PeopleSoft. When we purchased the PeopleSoft first time, we paid it with 64.90. But the following years, we charged that to 5,600 to maintain it. So the first year was 64.90, but the following year will be 5,600 to maintain it. So if you have anything that you buy the first year 64.90, and and then the second year it will get charged to 5,600. But please make sure that you put the prior year PO number in the comment for all the purchases. That it's We do that every year, annual purchases like uh, blankets, maintenance, rentals, anything that we do every year. We have to have the prior year PO number in the comment. That would help us in purchasing and accounting, because we would like to follow the same steps that we did on the original PO. So if the original PO, let's say original PO, we purchased some software. If we bought those software and they were less than $5,000, we purchased them with 4303. But following year, we want to use the same account. If it was done by mistake the first year, then we will correct it. It depends. Like when you're purchasing software, it's very helpful to put in the comment what is it that you're purchasing. Is it because when I look at the paperwork, sometimes it doesn't say license, but then it's charged to 5601 or 5603. So I have to ask is if this is a license. If it's not a licensing, then it will be charged to 4303. So it's very important to just let me know in the comment, or let the person who's doing the online requisition for Gen Fund to let them know what you're purchasing. Because as I mentioned, the paperwork sometimes it doesn't uh, tell exactly what we are paying for. After you're done with the default page, then you come to the main page. That's where you put the description. What I like to people do, it's don't copy requisition from prior year, because when you are copying the requisition prior year from the prior year, sometimes there was a mistake done on the requisition, which was corrected by business office or purchasing. If it was done this way, then you're not going to see what was the problem. So I always recommend people to open the prior year PO from last year and look at the last year PO. You can copy and paste the information from the PO. You cannot copy the PO, but you can just, for example, you can click on the description and you can copy the whole description. It just need to update. Like if you're buying a software, you just need to update the dates. So it will be very helpful if you put if you have the PO open from prior year, so you can follow the same steps. So you enter the description, and for all the descriptions except the blanket purchase order, when you are setting up a requisition for blanket purchase order, the description should start. It cannot be starting with BPO. It can't, because PeopleSoft is not programmed to understand the BPO. That's why you have to spell it out. You have to say blanket purchase order. When you put that at the beginning of the description, then the system knows this is a blanket purchase order. When it goes to purchasing, when they open your requisition, it will say this is a blanket purchase order. So they can set up, because when the online requisition for blanket purchase order goes to purchasing, purchasing cancels it, and then they they have a log sheet of all the numbers. So they choose the B number for you. So if you see when you go in PeopleSoft, you will see your requisition was canceled, but then it was used, but this time was a number was manually entered for blanket. So it's very important to start the requisition with the blanket purchase order for blankets, and for the regular purchases for 4,300 when you're buying supplies. If the paperwork, the quotation or estimate, anything that you attach to the requisition has the item number has to come first. The only time that we do not put the item number first is 6490, because when when accounting enters the PO to process it for payment, they only see 32 characters. So we do the item number, the item number at the beginning. It makes it easier for them to choose the correct line to charge it. So by the item number, they can look on the invoice and they match the item number to item number. We don't put the item number for the 6490 because the auditor, when they open the PO, just they see few characters. So for example, if you're buying a computer, say the computer costs more than 5,000. So if you, at the beginning of the description, if you say computer, server, or lift, all this, like it's just one word to say, to give a description of what it was purchased. That would help the auditor to know what to look for. Because with the numbers, the auditor would not know what the number stands for. Or sometimes the description for 6490 on the paperwork, on the quotation or estimate, doesn't really say what it is. So that's why I ask people when, for example, you get someone will come and ask you, please enter this requisition. It's for 6490. Please, if you when you look at the description, and if it doesn't make sense to you, it will not make sense to me. It will not make sense to purchasing or auditors. So just ask them, what is this? Like, uh, if it's like if it's a software, you start with the software. If it's computer, you put computer. Just ask them for one word to describe what is getting purchased with 6490. After you put that, for example, you put computer, and then you start with whatever description is on the quotation or on the estimate. You start that. At the end, you put the item number. So that's the only time you put the item number at the end. For Amazon order, it does not matter. The Amazon order is you just copy from the Amazon. Please just copy from the Amazon. Don't come up with your own description for the item, like you want to simplify it. Just copy. It's very easy. Just copy it from Amazon and put it in the description. And be careful when you copy and paste into description. Sometimes the quotation, sometimes the dash or brackets, they turn into upside down question mark. For Amazon, purchasing does not really care about that because the purchase order does not get mailed to Amazon. But the other purchase order uh, gets emailed to the vendor, and it will not look nice if there is a upside down question mark on the description. So please look at it when you're pasting it. You can see it, or when you save it, you can see there is a problem with the description. So just please fix it. For you to fix it at that time, it's easier than when it gets to business office. I spend a lot of time fixing description. And then if I don't fix that, it goes to purchasing and it causes a lot of problem for them. So please make sure that you always pay attention to the description. The the quantity has to match the quantity on the paperwork that you are attaching. For the blankets purchase order, it's always one because that's why it's very important to say blanket purchase order, because when you put blanket purchase order and one, PeopleSoft knows that this is a blanket and it will get used multiple times. So quantity it should be one. It cannot be anything else, just one. For the rentals, for example, Toshiba, you have to have 12 because we pay for the rentals for 12 months. So it has to be 12. And the unit price, it has to match the paperwork. Unit price for the rentals, like Toshiba, it has to include the sales tax. Because if you don't, let's say your Toshiba rental is $100 and you set up your requisition for quantity of 12 with $100 each, that's 1,200. And then you just miss the sales tax because you have to include it here. and you miss it. So when it comes to business office and when it's fixed in business office, your requisition fails budget because you only budgeted for 1,200. So always make sure that for rentals, it's the sales tax is included. And then when you have more than one line, you can use the plus sign. You can delete before you save. You cannot delete after you save the requisition. The only way that you can do that is by canceling it, which is gets printed on the requisition and on purchasing. It gets printed, the line that has been canceled. So just make sure that you're deleting the lines that you don't need. For the blanket purchase order, you can have more than one line. The PeopleSoft will give you a warning. It's going to say blanket purchase order cannot have more than one line. And this one was set up when, as I mentioned before, we used to have 3 distribution line on one line. And we had the same way with the blankets. And at the year end, it was causing a problem because we didn't know which line was used for how much and how much it needs to be accrued or it needs to be closed. So that's why you get that warning. But the warning is only to let you know you cannot have more than one budget for each line. So for example, you have 3 different budgets on the blanket. You have to have 3 lines on this page. And your line should start with the whatever is different between the budgets. Let's say you're gonna have a blanket to pay for supplies and for repair. So you're gonna have 2 lines. One line will be either 4,500 or 4,300. The second line will be 5,600. So at the beginning of the description, you put 4,500 and then blanket purchase order and then whatever it comes after that. Uh, Most people, they say supplies for which department. And then for the second line, you will put 5,600 blanket purchase order for repairs, and then you can put the department. When you're done entering the description and quantity and the price per unit, then you click on the schedule. Schedule is the icon that has like a red clock on it. So you can go all the way to the distribution line. So by clicking here, it's going to take you to the second page. And then if you forgot to enter the asset department, you can enter it here. And then when you click on the magnify glass, it will give you all these options. So if you forget to do it on the default page, you can enter it here. And then after you get to this page, you click on the distribution, which is the page with the arrows on the corner to get to the distribution page. This is when you have more than one budget. When you get to this page, then you can, by clicking on the plus sign, you can add a second or the third distribution. What I recommended for everybody, like when you're splitting budgets, it has to be, if you're splitting it and you're going to keep that, for example, not the blanket. Blanket, it has to have only one budget. But let's say you're paying for service with the vendor and you're going to have that service for the whole year. Then you can have 50-50 split here. Or you can have 33.33, you can have 3 lines. But you have to make sure that the split, it's kind of equal or it's gonna cause a problem at the year end. So I recommend to use only 50-50, but you have to, if you are using 3 budgets, it's only for the purchases that is for one time and you're done, not for the whole year. If it's for the whole year, it will cause a problem. So if you are purchasing, let's say you're purchasing a software, and it's only one time, you can split it between two or three. But if it's for the whole year, just split it between two and do 50-50. So it's not going to cause any problem for the next year. I'm sorry, for the on the year end. As I mentioned, all the requisition have to have a backup, all of them, except blanket purchase order. So you need to attach all of them by clicking on this add comments and attachments. You attach the paperwork that you have. So for example, if you're purchasing supplies, you have to have a quotation. If it's a supply that you're purchasing, uh, the price it's more than 1,000 for each unit, then you have to have three quotations. So if you're buying anything that with the sales tax and shipping is less than 1,000, you only attach one estimate. But if it's more than 1,000, you have to have two more estimates or quotations from different vendors. So it shows that you can take a screenshot. It's not the formal uh, estimate. So you can take a screenshot from different vendors and add it for the item that is uh, costing more than 1,000, sales tax and shipping included. For the services, if you're hiring someone to do services or we are hiring a speaker, we have to have a service agreement. We have to have a service agreement certification. You have to have a conflict of interest. We need to know that whoever you're choosing, it's not the friends or relative. So when you do conflict of interest, please put the name. So for example, if because you are entering the requisition, so it's not the vendor is not your choice. It's somebody else choosing the one that it's want to have the service with this vendor. They have to sign that sheet, not the person who enters it. Because if you're just entering it, this information was given to you. So whoever gives you the information, uh, let's say they want to use the vendor ABC. So whoever wants to work with that ABC company, they have to put their name and sign the conflict of interest. In case we get audited, they have to know who picked that vendor. So conflict of interest is very important. So it's the service agreement certification, conflict of interest, independent contractor versus employees. They need to be completed. These these three they get completed by the department. The service agreement has to be completed by the vendor. And the service agreement, when you send it out, please make sure that you have the first page and second page scanned to the vendor. And when you get it back, both pages have to be uh, sent back to you. Because if you do only with the first page, our terms and conditions, some of it is on the second page. So if anything happened, the vendor will tell us, oh, I didn't know, because probably, if you don't send the second page, if something happened, they can blame us for any any anything that happened, issues that happen after. So make sure that you have the service agreement, the first page and the second page. So when they are signing it, they signing after to it let us know that they read over all these terms and conditions we have and they agreed to it when they sign it. So it's very important. So the service agreement is for the vendor. The other forms are for the department to complete. And then if you have a scope of work, you can attach the scope of work or anything from the vendor that it's explaining what the service is about. And on the service agreement, please make sure that you have start and end date. Even if it's one day, you have to put the dates. Like if it starts October 15 and ends October 15, you put start and end 10:15. And then the dollar amount. The dollar amount has to be on the service agreement because we will look at the dollar amount. Um, if they send us an invoice, let's say your service agreement, you have a service agreement with the vendor for $5,000. We receive an invoice for $6,000. Then you have to do, if you agree with that charge, you have to do a change order to change the total on your service agreement and on the PO. So please make sure that you have the total on your service agreement. Our standard service agreement is up to 15,000. So up to 15,000, we can use our standard service agreement. When it's more than 15,000, that's where the process it changes. Uh, when let's say we have a service agreement with the vendor that's going to be for $20,000. What you need to do, you go on our website or on Los Rios website. You have to download the routing sheet. The routing sheet, you will have the vendor name and the budget that you're using and a little description of what it's going to be done with the service. And then your dean, the department's dean or supervisor will look over it and sign it. And everything, the routing sheet with the scope of work or with the vendor's contract, all all these they get attached to that routing sheet and it's sent to Ku Vang. Ku look over it and she reviews it, and if she agrees with that, she send it to contracts department. The contracts department do not accept any emails from the department. The only email that they look at or open it, it's from Ku. So if there is anything related to PSA, professional service agreement, please do not email them. Send an email to Ku and ask her for update. She can then email the contracts department and ask what's going on with the professional service agreement. So anything less than 15,000 is standard service agreement, uh, which is called SA. Anything more than $15,000, it's professional service agreement. It's called PSA, which is handled by district office and by our legal department because they have to look over the vendor contract. And if they accept it, they go by the vendor contract, but most of the time they attach uh, they have a professional service agreement that is done by Los Rios, and they send that one out to the vendor. And then first it gets signed by the signer with for the PSA, and then most of the time it's Jamie Ruggles if she's in the office. If she's not, then someone else would sign it, and then they send it to the vendor. Then the vendor will sign it and send it back. I'm not sure how they send it back. Sometimes uh, contract department gets it. Sometimes the someone on the campus gets it. But before you do before you do requisition for PSA, please make sure that the contract is done. Then do the requisition. Because if the paperwork are half done, when you do the online requisition, it will stay in the inbox, requisition inbox until all the paperwork are attached. It's very important. The PSA has to have both signatures. I had a case where um, the district office signed the contract, and then the vendor signed another copy of the contract. So both signatures were not on the same contract. So I used both attachments. I asked, I said, can I use that from the contracts? They said yes. If they said no, I will not use it. So I will ask the department to work with Ku and again to do two signatures on contracts. But then the contracts department, they told me it's okay. So I attached it, and I attached the email that I got from contracts to the requisition so Susie can see that we asked the contract department that it's okay to have two contracts, one with one signature, the other one with the other signature. but most of the time there should be two signatures on one PSA. When you do PSA, the department will do the conflict of interest, and then PSA, the purchasing or the contract department, they will ask for insurance from the vendor. Uh, so they will work with the vendor for insurance. Sometimes the vendor will attach them automatically, but if they don't, the purchasing or contracts will work with the vendor to get the insurance. Is there any question, or can I just continue? Okay, now it's for let's talk about the comments. So when you're attaching documents backup to the requisitions, if it's a, let's say you're doing a service agreement. So what I would like to see, and it makes it easier for purchasing, because when we attach everything on one PDF, when it goes to purchasing, Susie has to split that PDF because not everything gets sent out to accounting. They don't need to look at most of the paperwork. So for example, if you're doing a service agreement, do one comment for one attachment per comment. So the first comment, let's say it's a service agreement. You put SA for service agreement, and you will enter the start and end date after that, and you will attach only the service agreement, the 2 pages. You attach that. Then you hit the plus sign. Then you attach the department's forms, which are the conflict of interest, service agreement certification, independent contractor versus employee. So that will be the second one. And then you name each comment. So when people are looking at your requisition, they know. So if they click on this comment, this is a service agreement. The second one is department's form, which are these 3 forms. And the service agreement, you can have the service agreement with the scope of work attached on one comment. But then if there is an invoice, like the vendor wants to get prepaid for the service, then they will give us a invoice. Then you will do another comment and you will attach the invoice, and you will enter prepay in the comments. Let's say prepayment required, or prepay invoice number 123. So you need to put that in the comment. Because I have seen when I was in purchasing, they will attach an invoice, and when I open it, it's like, I know it's invoice attached to it, but it's like, what is it? Is it prepay, or it's something that is already done? They are attaching the invoice for something that is already done, which we consider it as unauthorized purchase memo. So it's very important you put a note in the comment. You would say prepay invoice, so we know that the vendor will not do the service or will not send you the order until they are prepaid. When we do prepay, when we have to do prepay, we have to have invoice. So for prepays, we have to have invoice. Some of the vendors, not all of them, some of them, they don't invoice you. They will give you a code, and then they will make a note on the quotation that this is prepayment required. When purchasing and accounting see the vendor's note, then they will prepay off of the quotation. If it doesn't have that, they will not prepay using the estimate or anything else except the invoice. This is again explaining about when you're using standard service agreement, you will need the service agreement, which is completed by the vendor, and the other 3 are completed by the department. When you attach all the paperwork, then you will click OK. If you don't click OK, it will not save them. If you need if you need to delete, like if you attach anything that shouldn't be attached to the requisition, you made a mistake. When you attach it and you want to delete it, you need to click on the delete and click OK. If you go back, the document will be there. But then when you click on delete and then OK and then save it, then that document is deleted. Before saving, it will not get deleted. When you click on delete, it doesn't automatically delete at that time. So you click on the delete and then OK and save it, then it's deleted. Now, let's say you're doing an order using restricted funds, Fund 12. For the Fund 12, please make sure that you complete the categorical certification and you put the correct name for the program coordinator. I've seen people entering their own name or the supervisor name. If the person is not the grant coordinator, the name should not be on this page, because not everybody knows. Like when it goes to purchasing, they don't know if someone new is approving uh, Fund 12 lottery money. If someone else is new, then the only way that it helps them to know the information is correct when they look at this page. So you please make sure that you have the correct name. And if somebody is signing, uh, let's say Angela Milano, she's on vacation. Somebody else will sign for her uh, program. That this part has to be the name of the person who's signing it on behalf of her. So you can mention it here, but please make sure that you have the correct name. When you are purchasing anything that is not IT related, like for example, uh, what we consider level one for the IT is it's anything that gets attached to your computer or downloaded to your computer. That's level one, which has to be approved by Jeff Booker or Randy Walker. So if you're buying headphones, if you're buying a keyboard or a mouse or a software that it's getting downloaded, it has to be level one. If you're using headphones for something else, it's not going to be used getting attached to your computer, then you have to make a note in the comment for me, so I don't have to send back your requisition or I don't have to ask IT to approve it. So anything that gets attached to the computer, you have to choose level one. If it's not anything IT related, then level zero, that's the one for uh, most of the purchases. And when you choose level one, please make sure that you notify Jeff or Randy. Let's say you after you're done, you save and you budget check your requisition, and it's on error. You can click on that error. If you have any question, you can call me. But when you click on the error, it shows you, it will show you the budget and it will show how much money is on that budget. For example, let's say, let's say in this case, like this is a Toshiba. Let's say you did not account for the sales tax. You did not include the sales tax. So you put only 1,200, and then the sales tax it's causing the requisition to fail budget. So when you click on the error, it will show you you only have 1,200, and then in the available budget you see only $50. So you know that you have to increase, you need to do a budget modification to increase that budget or change the budget to another 5601 if you have available funds in another 5601. But if you have any question, you can send an email to business office so they can help you. If you need to cancel a requisition, when you wanted to cancel it, the requisition has to be on a valid budget. If it's not valid, if it's on error, you need to ask business office to cancel it for you because there is a different process for requisition that failing budget. So business office will cancel it for you. And then if you enter a requisition, I have seen it like when people choose a supply, but for some reason, PeopleSoft does not calculate the sales tax, and it's failing budget. You can send a you can send an email to business office. They can look it up and add the sales tax because when it's not adding the sales tax, it will when we add the sales tax, it's going to cause a problem. So if you know that your requisition uh, will fail budget check because when you enter that, it did not calculate the sales tax, but you have to have sales tax, please notify business office so they can fix it and they will let you know how much you need to do the budget modification for. After you're done, please save a copy of the requisition for yourself. Uh, if you need to look at it or save it to use it for next year or just put it in the folder. So to make sure that every year, for example, if you have requisitions for 12 blankets, so when we are getting close to the new fiscal year, then you know that you have to do 12 blankets for blanket purchase order, which you can most of the time purchasing will let us know at the end of April or May. You can enter the following year requisitions. Uh, but they would tell you that you need to and change the requisition date to enter the new requisition. So keeping a copy of your requisition for the next year, uh, that will help you to set up all the POs that you need. Because sometimes, like it's in mid of the year it's January, and the department has not even set up the requisition for Toshiba, and they've been using Toshiba since July. So by having a copy of the requisition, it will help you to remember what it needs to be done. When you save the copy, then you notify the people that they need to approve your requisition. So please remember, if it's a Fund 12, you have to notify all the requisition. What I have seen all these years, all the requisition, no matter what fund they are, all the requisition, first they have to be approved by the department's dean or supervisor. So if I'm purchasing something, but I'm using, let's say I'm going to use uh, Ku's funds. So if I'm going to buy something using her fund, when I enter the requisition, first I have to notify Adrian. She's my supervisor. So she knows what I'm purchasing, even though it's not her budget, but she has to approve that. So always notify your supervisor first or the dean. Then if it's Fund 12, then you will notify the person who's the grant coordinator. So for example, Adam or Derek for 700p, Adam for 700p, or Nicole for the other funds. So you have to notify them. So it's going to be the supervisor or the dean of the department and the grant coordinator. And if it's something IT related, it's going to be Jeff or Randy. And if we are buying furnitures or anything, there is a list. It was sent for to everybody, but if you need it, I can send it out again. There is list of orders that they need to be approved by operation. So Margaret has to approve those. So furniture, refrigerator, uh, cabinets, anything that we're gonna purchase, she has to approve it. And these are how you notify. You look up the recipient, and you put part of their last name, and you search. You pick the correct person, and you have to click on the add to the recipient list. If you don't, it's not going to add it. And if you want to CC yourself or anybody else, or you're sending it to few people, you can notify all of them. And you click OK to save this page. And then you can make a note. If you want to, please approve whatever notes you want to add, and then you click OK, and it will send out the notification to all the people that they need to approve the requisition.
All right, thank you. Does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask?
Hi. I do. Is it okay?
Yeah, go
Hi,
ahead.
my name is Katia. Thank you for having this training. So I actually have a couple questions. So for a blanket PO, the process would be the same as the regular PO, except for the line section, we would just leave that blank and submit the rest as usual.
What do you mean by the line?
So so what would be the process for a blanket PO? Because I just got access to do purchasing.
Okay. So for the blanket purchase order, you don't need any attachment for the blanket purchase order. What you need, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention. For the blanket purchase order, you have to start the description. Let's say you are going to buy supplies for what department you're working.
It's the Unite Center. So
Okay,
yeah.
okay. So you will start your description by blanket purchase order for supplies for Unite department.
Mm-hmm.
When you enter that, then you're going to have a quantity of one, and then the unit of measure is lot, and then you put, and then for the blanket purchase order has a limit. It cannot be less than 1,000. It can be 10,000 or 20,000, but it cannot be less than 1,000. Purchasing will not set up the blanket. So you have to make sure you have 1,000 on your blanket, and then the description, it tells what you're purchasing for what department. And then in the comment area, you're not going to have any attachment. We don't need any attachment. In the comment area, you will start your comment with the prior year PO number. So you have to look for the B number from last year, which will be B24 and 4 digits. So you put that, and then your blanket, it's all our blankets is always starts July 1st and it ends June. So for example, you're doing a blanket for this year, but it's already October and you haven't purchased anything. Hopefully you did not purchase anything unauthorized. But if you did, then you have to backdate the blanket. So it has to start from 7/1. But if you haven't purchased anything and you want to purchase from starting November, then you will put November 1st to end of June. But all the blankets are from July to end of June. And the other things that I forgot to mention, if you are setting up a purchase order, not the blanket, a regular purchase order, if you're doing an online requisition for a regular purchase order, and you're attaching an invoice that is dated, let's say it's dated August. It's mean you received the order, so it was unauthorized. So you purchased something without having a purchase order signed. Then you have to attach unauthorized purchase memo signed and completed by the department. You have to attach that to the requisition. Let's say you did the requisition on October 1st. You wanted to work with one vendor or you want to order from one vendor, but then there was a problem with your requisition. The requisition was not completed and was not forwarded to purchasing to have the purchase order signed, and you got your item on, let's say, October 7th. It still is unauthorized because the online requisition has to turn into PO, has to be signed and sent to vendor. That's authorized. If all these steps are not done and you get the order, it's unauthorized. So you have to have unauthorized purchase memo completed. Sorry, I just remembered that. So what is the other question that you have on the blanket?
That was basically it. So then after, well, actually, okay, so after that's done and created, when you want to pay out the blanket PO,
Yes.
you just go back in and update it with the list of the items.
Okay, so for the blanket purchase order, uh, we have a blanket order release online. You need to complete that, and you attach that uh, blanket order release. You complete it. Let's say you have only one invoice, so you put the PO number. Let me share. Let me find a. Let's see. Let me find a blanket order release. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Thanks, Jackie, for doing this training. And I have a very special case. So I have a faculty member who was approved for a grant. He went ahead and bought $5,400 worth of items. And I'm trying to figure out whether I submit this as a campus-based fund requisition or as a limited purchase order. And I know I have to add the unauthorized purchase
Okay.
attachment as well.
Okay. For the limited purchase order, the limited purchase order is up to 1,000, including the sales tax. So if your order is 1,001 penny, it cannot be unlimited purchase order. So limited purchase order, it's limited to $1,000. If if you have a gen fund that you want to use, then that would be online requisition in gen fund. You have a if you have a grant that it's in campus based, then you will do campus based and you will attach the unauthorized purchase memo and explain why the purchase was done.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Okay, so for the blanket order release, you log in and under employees, you go to this tab, ARC resources. There is business service office, and then there are forms here. So as you can see, there all the forms are here, budget forms, receiving forms, and I forgot to mention that. So when you have a regular PO, when you have a regular PO, you're ordering, let's see, you're ordering computers from CDW. Most of the time when the vendors send the order, when it goes to receiving, if Jose is there, he opens it and he processes the receiver for it. In case when delivery is done and it comes to your department instead of going to receiving, you need to notify Jose and let him know in receiving. Let him know that you received the order. Jose will not know anything about when you're purchasing software or when you're hiring a speaker or someone to do a service for you. So when you receive a service from a speaker or any other services and it's done, then you notify Jose and let him know that he can release the whole PO or part of the PO. It depends how the vendor invoice you. If you order a software and you received it, you have to let Jose know that you received it because there are not tangible items. When they are not tangible and he doesn't receive them, he's not going to process receiver for something that he doesn't know if it's received or not. So please make sure that let him know that you received the order. The only time that you don't have to notify him that you received the order, it's for the campus-based. For the campus-based, you notify business office. Okay, let's look at the purchasing forms. There is like a check request, and it give you the instruction how it's used. And then limited purchase order eForms. If you have any question, we can go over that. And then let's see. I think blanket order release needs to be somewhere on the receiving part. Okay, right here. So when you have a blanket purchase order, you're not gonna contact Jose. This is done by you. So all the purchase orders are we have two type of purchase orders. One type which is called two-way POs. We call it two-way. If it when it's like two-way PO, it's a blanket because it needs a PO and an invoice. It's a prepay. You need the PO and an invoice. There is no receiving involved here. So it's blankets, that is two-way. It's prepays. It's invoice attached after you receive the order. It's a done deal. So you have the order, you attach the invoice. It's the invoice attached PO, and then the maintenance PO. These POs they call two-way PO. Involves only PO and invoice. With the blanket, it's a two-way PO. It involves blanket order release and the invoice. So when you process this, we don't have to have the release number. So you put the purchase order number, and if it the vendor name, and if it's only one invoice, you put the invoice number right here and the date. If it's more than one invoice, you put the invoice number here and the total. You don't have to put the, like, for example, you receive office supplies, you receive pens and notebooks. You don't have to put them all here. You just put the invoice number and the total. So if you have more than one, you put all the invoices here.
Jackie, are you displaying something? Because all I'm seeing is a picture that says end of training.
Oh
Yes,
no,
not sharing the screen.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought that I was sharing.
That's okay.
My
You're gonna have
bad.
to back up because that was in the chat and I wasn't seeing it either.
Okay. Sorry about that. And I thought that I was sharing. Everybody sees my page?
Not yet.
Still says end of training.
There I
Oh.
see email.
Okay, do you see the emails?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Okay, do you want me to start from the beginning where I went?
Yes, please.
Okay, so let's go to the ARC homepage. This is for all the forms. You want to see all the forms. So you click on the employees, and then under ARC resources, business services office. And these are business services forms. Sorry about that. I I thought that you all can see the forms that I was showing. So when you get to this page, there you can see all these forms. For the blanket order release, it will be part of the receiving forms because it's considered your receiver paperwork. So a blanket purchase order, as I mentioned, you don't need the release number. You just need the purchase order number. That's your B number. And then if you have only one invoice, you put the invoice number and the date. If you have more than one invoice, then you put the invoice number here and the total on your invoice. You don't have to itemize it. So just the invoice and the total. And then at the end, here will be the total of all these purchases. Let's say you have 5 invoices. It has to be the total on the 5 invoices. And if your blanket has only one line, so you put PO line 1, and then you put the whole budget string and the amount. If you have 2 lines, then you do PO line 1, PO line 2. Maybe you're splitting it between the lines, like you received supplies and repairs. If you have more than 3 lines, then you can do it on here. So you will put the PO line number and then budget string and the total here. So let's say you have four lines on your blanket. So 2 are here, the other 2s are here. And then you put your name. The name has to be one of the people that is in the comment. So in the comment area for the blanket order release, when you put the prior year number and then you put the dates, then you add the authorized personnel list. It lists all the people that can do blanket order release. And then it has to have the supervisor or the dean name. That's the person who will approve this form, the blanket order release form. So you put your name and the date. After it's done, completed, then you will save it and attach it to your email. You attach it to your email and you send it to the person who needs to approve it. And then when you send it to them, just remind them that they need to approve it. And with the attachment, it has to be forwarded to district office account payable. This is for the blanket order release. And then you can do it. So when you are returning an item, this form has to be completed and sent to Jose in receiving if you're returning any item. Before you return, make sure that you call the vendor and you get the return authorization number from them. So if the order is damaged, they have to pay for it. If we order something by mistake, then we have to pay for the shipment. So you don't have to ask the vendor. You just let them know that you're sending the order back, and then we will pay for the shipping if it was our mistake. But if it's something that was vendor mistake, we have to have return merchandise authorization number from them, so we don't have to pay for the shipment. And then I'm not sure if you know this budget modification request. This is when you increase the budget on your requisition or on the PO. And then the change order form. This is when you want to increase the blanket or you want to change anything on your purchase order. This has to be completed and attached to an email and then the supervisor or the dean has to approve it, and it will get sent back to business office for the review and approval. Oh, and I forgot to let you know, when you're doing a blanket order release, and then you're using Fund 12, this part has to be completed. So you complete this page, and then right when you send it to your supervisor or the dean to approve it, you have to CC the grant coordinator, because they have to put their approval on the email too. So just on the email, if they say approve, accounting will accept that. It doesn't have to be printed and signed. It's just the email approved that will be okay with them to process. Any other question?
If there's no more questions, we can end the recording, but last
Um,
chance.
Hi, I put in something about the LPO, and I know that's kind of a little off from this, but the new LPO form that's online, I don't know, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. When you first go into it, it says supervisor employee ID. Is that your actual supervisor ID that you're putting in, or are you putting in you as the person initiating it?
That's a good question.
I know I've done both because I'm like, well, wait, I don't want to put this in and then it goes like it looks like my supervisor did it because I did it, and I don't know. That was the only part that's really confusing. So thank you.
Let me see.
So when I click into it as a mere mortal, um, it's
Probably it follows the same way that GenFund follows, because see, I don't see the page that you see.
right.
I see this. I see the LPO this way. Probably it's your ID, because on the online requisition, it's the employee ID number of the person who's entering it.
Right. So when I hit initiate purchase order and I pull my screen up, the first thing that it says is supervisor employee ID. And so I took that as, oh, that's my supervisor I'm putting in, not me. But then there's nowhere on here for it's showing me putting it in. But it actually does say supervisor employee ID.
Yeah. You don't see it, but we see it who entered it.
Okay, so I should put my supervisor there then.
You can put that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then for the limited purchase orders, this is a little different. I'm not sure when you opening it, what type of option it gives you. It's a little different than campus-based fund. For delivery instruction, what I ask everybody to do, for example, because on limited purchase order, we cannot purchase from Amazon. Let's say you want to buy something from Amazon.
Mhm.
So you're going to attach the screenshot of items that you want to order from Amazon. In order to not confuse the business office, because it happened to me, I had a screenshot of the Amazon stuff, and then I recycled the LPO and I said, where is the payment uh, confirmation? And then they said that, oh, we haven't purchased it. We're just notifying you that we want to purchase. So on the delivery instruction, you just put the note for me that this is only to start the limited purchase order. You haven't purchased it. You just like, for example, you adding screenshot of Costco or Sam's Club or Amazon, this to order later. Because from Amazon, we cannot send purchasing will not process limited purchase order on Amazon orders. So what we do, you can do is uh, purchase it on your own, but before you purchase it, you're gonna take a screenshot of what you wanna purchase. and then you have your dean or supervisor approve it, let them know that you want these, and you will pay for it and then get reimbursed. So in order for you to get reimbursed, not and for us not to ask you for unauthorized purchase memo, you need to let me know this is intent to order, and then you later on you're gonna attach the payment confirmation after you purchase it for reimbursement.
Correct. Okay, yeah,
So
we
yeah,
were told in science to make sure we get all that pre-approved first. It is a little
yes.
tricky when we have to buy live specimens out like at a bait shop or something. We don't always have those exact numbers, but I have a feeling we'll figure something out with it, some sort
It's
of
okay.
screenshot we can get, yeah.
It's okay when you're because this is like when you start a limited purchase order, it's just the estimate.
Mhm.
You don't know the final dollar amount. You can make changes on the limited purchase order when you are attaching the last, which is step 2, when you are attaching your invoice for payments. On the you can make the changes. So when you start the LPO, it's just based on the estimate, because you're going to have your estimate based on your screenshot or the estimate that you got from the vendor. But after the order is done and you want to pay them, it's different. You can make the changes on the LPO. It will not cause any problem.
Awesome. And just out of curiosity, one last thing, because some of the bait shops and random grocery stores we go to for items, can we put something verbally that they told us over the phone is the price, or do we have to try to get something in a screenshot from them?
If it's done on the over the phone, you can attach it as an attachment. Just put the date,
Okay,
who you talk to, what store is it. Let's say you call somebody at Safeway. So you let's say you call them today. You put 1014 and then call the vendor and the time and ask for these items. And this is the total based on your phone conversation. If you cannot get any screenshot, attach that as the attachment, because
awesome.
that's
Thank you.
kind of like a backup, and you're gonna do your LPO based on what you were given over the phone.
Great. Thank you very much, Jackie. This is great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, does anyone have any additional questions?
Um, One last question for me. So, if we were to do any like purchases from the horticulture department or any other department on campus, that would be a campus-based requisition?
It can be either. It can be LPO, it can be campus-based, or it depends what you're using, what funds you're using.
No, I'm just saying like for future purchases. I'm assuming it would be 4,500 because it's non-instructional
Oh,
supplies.
oh, okay. If it's non-instructional, yes, it's 4,500. And the other things that I forgot, when you have, I saw this 5,200 and I remember, when you have a catering,
Mm-hmm.
you want to do, let's say you're gonna have an event in mid-November, you
Mm-hmm.
better start like paperwork from now. Let
Okay.
us know you're gonna have an event. So when you do, it doesn't matter if you do LPO, you do campus-based or Gen Fund online requisition. You will attach the flyer, and then you're gonna get the estimate from the vendor. It doesn't matter which one vendor it is, as long as it's in the system. Um, So it will be the flyer and the vendor's estimate. You will attach those to your requisition. It doesn't matter which requisition it is. You use the 5,200 for all the food purchases. We don't have an account for meals. We don't have category for meals, so we use 5,200, which is travel training. We use that to pay for food. And then the other thing that you need to have, it's a list of attendees. So when you do 5,200 to have an event, when it's food involved, we always require 3 A's. That's how I remember from when I was in accounting. My supervisor told us you have to have 3 A's. So that stuck in my head. So I tell everybody, when we use 5,200 for an event for meals, we have to have 3 A's. It's the activity, agenda, and a list of attendees. So these are 3 A's that accounting has to have and purchasing to process your PO and the payment. So when you're gonna do an event, you're gonna put it on requisition. So you gotta get the estimate, but it's in mid-November, so you don't know who's gonna attend. So on the attachment, you will attach the most of the departments, they attach flyer, which serves like instead of putting activity and agenda, they do flyer. So we accept that flyer for activity and agenda. And then because you don't have a list now, it's in mid-November, you put in the comment, a list of attendees will be provided after the event, because accounting will not process the invoice if they don't receive that. But then you have to mention it on your requisition that you will provide that list of attendees. If it's after the fact, like some event was supposed to be done and the paperwork were not done after the event, so when you do that, you have to have the invoice because it's after. So you have to have an invoice. You have to have the flyer or the activity agenda, and you have to have a list of attendees. And the last one that has to be attached is an authorized purchase memo explaining why the requisition was not done before the event. In case any vendor, we always offer to all our vendors, we always offer them purchase order. So we always ask them if it's a new vendor. If the vendor is in the system, we're good. But if it's a new vendor, first you need to ask, do you accept POs? If they say no, then you will ask them to accept POs with the check, prepayment check. If they say no, we don't accept POs, we don't accept payments by check, we only accept credit cards, then you will process the requisition under US Bank, because business office has credit card that we use for in this case. But you have to always try to get the vendor to accept POs. If they don't accept POs, then you offer them, you're gonna tell them, oh, we're gonna have the PO with the prepayment check based on their invoice. And then the last option, always the last option, is the credit card. We do not like to purchase with credit card for vendors that they are, we know them, or they are uh, Sacramento, they are in California. It's easy to follow up with them. But for example, if you want to buy something, a software outside the United States or outside California, and we don't receive the order, and it's been months, and then the credit card is charged. So you have to pay for it because the credit card has to be paid by the end of the month. If not, it will accumulate finance charges and late charges. So the last option, that's why the last option is credit card. So please try to work with the vendors that we have in the system. But for some reason, if you have to have the vendor that is not in the system, try talk to them, see if they accept POs first. If they don't, then the POs with the check. And the last option is credit card.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. If there are no further questions, I will stop the recording.